Hey guys, it's Ronnie. Welcome to Ronnie Rambles, and I'm rambling again. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on. I don't even know where to start. For those of you who don't know, I am a college professor at a community college outside of Baltimore, and we're getting ready for the fall semester, and it's a madhouse, of course, because of COVID and the pandemic, and the college is juggling potential modalities and online versus remote versus blended learning versus, I don't know, they have a couple other titles that I'm not even thinking about right now. So classes start not this coming Monday, but the Monday after. So I'm in that prep rush, right? I'm a plan A, B, C, D, Z person. So I'm planning on teaching all of my courses as if they are online, because I'm under the assumption that it's very clearly still a possibility that they will do that. But at this time, I'm actually potentially going to be meeting a handful of classes in small groups. So if anyone who's listening who's a teacher knows planning A, B, C, Z is very time consuming. It's just more work when you can't kind of know you can just work as you go, but actually have to have 4 months worth of lessons and quizzes and assignments and activities and all that stuff planned out. So I am in that rush right now. And so I'm recording a little bit early. It's actually Thursday night at 9 o'clock. Today's August 20th. Tomorrow's the 21st. Hopefully we'll publish this. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about was asking for help. So this was a topic on my blog years and years and years and years ago when I had toddlers. I had toddlers at one time. Now I have teenagers. It's a crazy mind shift. But I wrote a post once that was really well received, and it was all about learning how to ask for help. So I'm one of those very independent-minded people that think I could do everything by myself, right? And interesting enough, my mom is also one of those people. And I actually remember her reaching out to me like 10 years ago or whenever I wrote that post. I'll see if I can dig it up actually and repost it. But she actually reached out to me and said, "Thank you. I know I need to learn to ask for more help." So anyway, long story short, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I literally just had a conversation with my husband and I said, I need some help. I really, really want to record my podcast because I'm really enjoying it and it's a great outlet for me and I like it's something I do for me, right? And even though I'm busy and we're still juggling the kids and they're getting ready for school and I'm now back at work full time, I said I really want to make it happen. So I was thinking about recording tonight. If you can handle XYZ for instead of me doing it and then you doing, and he was like, okay, cool, and I was like, okay, cool. It was like that's okay, cool is kind of how we talk. So yeah, I asked for help. I received help. I know that's not always the case, but more oftentimes than not, I feel like a lot of people feel like they can't ask for help or they think it's a sign of weakness or I don't know, whatever. They just decide not to do the thing that they wanted to do. In this case, like I could have just not recorded the podcast. But it was something I really wanted to do. So I asked. So here I am. So that said, I do have a few topics that I took notes again for, and I have lots of movies that I want to talk about. I know I feel like this should just turn into like a movie recommendation podcast. I don't really watch TV anymore because I don't have the ability to invest in a series, or I should say I don't want the investment of time in a series where I have to like feel like I'm committed to something, week after week, or I have 20 hours or X number of seasons to watch. So I find that like when I want to unwind or relax, I'll throw on a movie, which is why I give a lot of movie recommendations. So I have a few movie recommendations in different genres, not just horror, sci-fi. I also want to talk a little bit about my food journaling, which is in the tubes right now, falling apart on me. So I'm just going to be super transparent about that and just talk about that. And then I have a 9-year-old quote celebration to share. So I'm going to start backwards and actually start with the 9-year-old quote, and we'll end with the movies like we usually do. So my 9-year-old has learned how to ride a bike. Finally. I know I'm late with this, and I don't know, from some people's perspective, I'm late, I'm sure. And I see 4-year-olds riding bikes without training wheels all the time, and I'm impressed. But then I also know adults who don't know how to ride a bike. So I'm somewhere in the middle. So I'll tell you the story. We're not a bike family. Like I see a lot of families that ride bikes together, and I think it's fantastic. It's just, and I like riding a bike, but it's just not in my culture that's why I picked up running, I think, because you don't need any equipment. And to me, a bike is a lot of overhead. You got to maintain it. You got to get a bike rack if you want to go someplace. There's a lot of work involved. So we do have bikes. We actually have my husband's bike from when he was a kid, because my in-laws save everything. So that's kind of cool. And we purchased the bike when my teenager was a toddler, and we purchased a bike with training wheels that you can remove. And then we inherited 2 10-speed bikes from my parents. So we have bikes. They're in bad shape. We have to put air in them every few days, the tires and things like that. Regardless, the reason why I bring this up is that my teenager learned how to ride a bike when he was, 12-ish, right? So it was before middle school started. And I remember saying to him at that time, I feel like I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't teach you how to ride a bike before middle school. I just feel like it's a rite of passage. I think I learned when I was around 7 or 8. So when the teen was younger, we got out there. It took a couple hours. He started to get the hang of it. And then the next day we went back out there and he got it, right? It's really for people who've learned how to ride a bike. I know there's lots of approaches, but, once you kind of commit to learning, you pick it up pretty fast. So, especially when you're a kid, right? So he learned to ride a bike, and then he fell in love with it. He loves riding his bike. It's one of the physical activities I can get my teen to actually do without argument, which is great. And when he first learned, the 9-year-old now was a toddler or infant then, we would pack his bike in the car, and I would take the running stroller and put the toddler in the running stroller, and we would go to like a local like paved trail. And oh my God, it was so much fun. Even thinking about it, I get teary-eyed. It was just fun. And I remember one of them is a famously hilly area, and he was just miserable because it was a lot of uphill on the one way. But of course, as an adult, I know you're going to turn around and get the downhill. And so I remember one day where we turned around and he got the downhill, and I let him get out ahead of me. And again, how old was he? I don't know. How old are you before middle school? I guess he was even younger than that, because I remember being a little concerned that he was like out ahead of me and I might not be able to catch up to him. But I let him go, doing that thing that I try to do, which is let go. And, oh my gosh, I am getting teary-eyed about this. So, and I remember when I finally caught up with him with the running stroller, he had the biggest smile on his face, like, oh my God, this was great. And I was like so happy for him because he like experienced this like awesome thing. Okay, I'm not going to cry. Anyway, fast forward to yesterday, actually. All of a sudden, the 9-year-old has shown an interest in riding a bike. Now, I've been trying to get him to ride a bike, especially because we've been home. And he kind of was like, I don't want to learn, and it's too hard, and I don't want to hurt myself, and, all the things that kids do. He wasn't really motivated. And I took him out last year and did the whole run behind why you hold the seat and run by them as they go kind of thing. And he was kind of getting it. And I even said to the husband, I'm like, he's so close. He has to just want to do it. So again, fast forward to this year, and he comes up to me earlier this week and says, I think I want to learn to ride a bike. I went, oh, okay, let's do this. You really want to learn how to ride a bike? That was great. Now, I've been busy because of school. So when the husband got done with work, I said, hey, Evan, oh, that's his name. I know I call him the 9-year-old, but I try not to use their names too much on the internet. said he wants to learn how to ride a bike. I said, why don't you take him out while I make dinner? It would be great. So he did. Comes back in. He says, oh my gosh, he's so close, right? So we decide to go back out after dinner. And there's a local park by our house that has like a large parking lot. So we have a sidewalk in front of our house, which is great, but it's narrow. And so, when you're learning and you're kind of like wobbly all over, well, he's falling off the edge of the sidewalk into the grass and it's impeding him. So I said, let's bring him up. We did the same thing for his brother. Let's bring him up to the park, wide parking lot. Literally got it like that, like snap, like done. And I'm watching him cruise around and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. I sent a picture to the grandparents. I did all the things that I do. So anyway, we're going to bed that night and he was so happy. You could see that pride on his face. So we're going to bed and he goes, Mom, I just need to tell you. Because that's, by the way, this is how he talks. I'm not even exaggerating. It's really cute. You were right. I didn't want to do it, but then I learned. And now I want to do it all the time. And I will say, he has been doing it all the time. And all the time in the past 2 days it's been, but like he woke up this morning, I came home from the gym, we put more air in his tires because they needed air, and he's out and about riding his bike, comes back in, has some food, I'm going to go back out. I'm like, okay, go back out. He's been riding his bike all day, and I'm like, he's obsessed with it now. But it made me laugh because he has a personality type that reminds me of me a little bit, of course, because he's my son, although he's much more my husband than me. The older one is me, the younger one is my husband, hands down. Okay, there's not even an argument, but there's little qualities that you notice. They're their own people, of course. So, but he does have a habit of he's got a lot of interests, like me, lots of interests in lots of things, but he's always kind of afraid to take the leap. And he's very hard on himself. So, for example, he really likes to draw. And I like to draw when I was that age as well. I had sketchbooks and everything. He has sketchbooks, but he's very hard on himself. And I keep telling him, the more you draw, the better you get at it, things like that. So, I'm trying to get him into this mode that things you become good at are the things that you do. If you're doing them, you're getting better at them. And it's like, the whole 10,000 hour thing that people were talking about years ago and all that other stuff. But there is a truth to that, right? I use my own cooking I always enjoyed cooking, but I wasn't as good at cooking as I am now. Now I'm actually getting good, but I have 20 years of cooking experience. And so it pays off, right? So I just thought that was a cute little nugget of 9-year-old wisdom, which was, I didn't want to do it. And then I learned how to do it. And now I want to do it all the time, is also the way that I approach, or I would say my experience with running. I didn't want to do it. And then I started doing it. And now I have to go every day, working out, lifting weights. These are things that I think I always had a little desire to do, but something was holding me back, just like how he was afraid to learn to ride the bike, or he didn't have quite the right motivation. But then when he finally did do it, that door gets opened, right? So now he wants to ride his bike all the time. Now I could live at the gym. I really could. It's really kind of creepy how much I enjoy it. But my point is, he opened the door, right? So I thought that was kind of an inspirational story that hopefully maybe you can open a door for yourself and try something new. And you never know, you might be something you end up wanting to do all the time. Okay, so that was my little 9-year-old nugget of the day. Okay, so confession time. I'll move on to my food journaling. So last week I started a food journal challenge. A handful of people kind of said, I'll do it too. And I started keeping my food journals on MyFitnessPal again. And I was doing really good for a couple of days, which is a normal pattern for me. Then the busyness kicks in, and then I'm stressed out about my classes, or just general things are happening, and I'm losing it. Now, here's the funny thing. I purposefully created the challenge knowing that this is what was going to happen, and hoped the challenge of me keeping a food journal every day, not with any kind of like specific goals in mind or macros or calories or any of that, but just keeping a food journal. You would think it's easy. Just freaking write down what you're eating. But for whatever reason, I don't know what it is. I enter into that mentality state of, oh, forget it. Oh my God. I just want to grab this bag of Doritos and munch on it while I'm working or whatever. Or for me right now, I have another whole side story I can tell you. All right, I'll tell you, even though no one's forcing me, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it's funny. Okay, so my birthday, when I launched the podcast, actually, the husband and I were doing some drinking and we were reminiscing about, I might have even brought this up already, I don't know, but we were reminiscing about our Jamaica trips so we have had a tradition where, I think I mentioned this for sure, we would go away for a long weekend, kind of in that end of July, beginning of August, kind of for my birthday, end of summer celebration. And of course, we didn't get to go. So we fell in love in Jamaica with a specific brand of rum called Sangsters, and they make a rum cream, which is kind of like a Bailey's rum chata-esque, drink. I love it. I love it. Over the rock, like just that on the rocks, I could sip on it. I shouldn't even call it sipping. It just goes down way too easy. So anyway, I have a relationship with a local liquor store because I've been getting into the cocktails, so I've been purchasing bottles for my home bar, and I asked them last year if it's something they could order, and they looked up on their distribution list or whatever, and it wasn't listed. So then I did a little bit of research and found out not exported to the United States, not available anywhere. And it's funny because there are a handful of, there's message boards postings and things online where people are talking about trying to get it. And it made me laugh because I'm like, I'm not the only one who's obsessed with this rum cream. So anyway, on my birthday, after I recorded the podcast and did all that stuff, I started searching online to see if I can find it. And I found it. I found a Jamaica, I think it was called Jamaican outsource.com or something like that. It was like some cheesy website. And I was like, and they had it and you can order it and get it shipped to you. So I was like, let me just see if this works. It worked. And I wish I took a picture actually. It finally got here this past week and it came in a box wrapped in old brown paper bags with a tie around it with a million stamps on it, handwritten in a Sharpie from some dude in Jamaica. And I'm like, am I going to get arrested for this? I don't know if this is allowed to, but anyway, it came and we have it. And I have every night this week enjoyed a small glass on the rocks before bed. It's been my little end of the day celebration that I got through another day. I have not been putting that in my food journal. Not that that's the reason why my food journal has been down the tubes, but it's just an example of, I'm like, I just don't want to think about food or intake or calories or anything right now. But what ends up happening when I kind of loosen the reins a little bit is then I start to get into this cycle of trying, failing, binging, trying, failing, it's like a cyclic craziness. And I'm really, really trying. You would think I would be over this by now. It's insane that this still happens. But anyway, I'm going to keep trying because the door is opened. No, I'm going to keep trying because that's where the success is. It's not that I need to be perfect. It's that I don't know, I don't know how to explain it. I just don't let go in some weird way. Because if I do, it would be bad. Anyway, that was my small confession on the food journal. So let's get to these movie recommendations this week. I actually have 10 minutes left, and I have 4 movies. Someone made me laugh the other day because they were like, no, I think I have to get Hulu because I'm recommending things on Hulu. And I'm like, I'm sorry. We do have Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon Prime. And those are the 3 main streaming services that we use. We don't have cable at my house, so that's what we do instead. And so I will kind of probably shuffle up my recommendations on different services. So the first service, I'm going to bring up Netflix. And actually, this is one that I forgot to mention last week. It's a movie called Elizabeth Harvest. It was a husband find, which tells you something, because normally the husband doesn't go for my style movies. To be frank, he's the rom-com kind of guy, and I'm like a slasher flick kind of girl. So we like a lot of the same movies, don't get me wrong. We like good movies together, like dramas and thrillers. Those like, but then where we vary is I'm kind of like not into the rom-coms as much as he is, and he's not into like this cheesy B horror stuff that I am. So that's kind of where we. So anyway, he brought this up and he's like, I think you'll like this one. He, based on the description. And I did. It's very artsy, for lack of a better term. The plot is basically this girl, it starts on her wedding day, and something's kind of weird and not right. She's marrying like this older rich guy, and he's like touring, giving her a tour of the house, which is odd because they just got married. So there's an oddness there. I don't want to tell you much more about it than that because it will give away certain plot points, which I think is better to be uncovered. But I will say what I really liked about this movie, I mean, it wasn't, Oscar worthy. I have to like precursor them and everything. I actually really enjoyed the cinematography, for lack of a better word. Like they used colors interesting because there were parts of the movie where they were doing like flashbacks and like telling different, and I realized that what they were doing with color, which I thought was pretty cool. And they did a lot of split screeny kind of stuff where they were actually showing you what was happening between two characters at different times. At the same time. So I thought that was kind of cool. So I feel like it tried to do some things a little like artsy and different, and I kind of appreciated that. And the storyline sucked me in for sure. So I would recommend that one. It's on Netflix. And then the second one was a my find, but the husband loved it, right? So did I. And it's I don't even think it's rated. It's called Time Lapse. Actually, no, it's called Time Trap, not Time Lapse. And the husband reminded me of that. And now I have to go in and edit all the times I said the wrong movie name. Anyway, it's from 2017. And how do I tell this story? So we put on this movie. In the first 15 minutes, I was like a little concerned. I was like, I don't think the acting is very good in this movie. But one of the main characters in the beginning, he looked like I can't remember the two actors we thought of. But he didn't look familiar. He just looked like two other we always do this thing where we like, oh, that guy looks like so-and-so and so-and-so's baby, even though they might be the same sex or whatever. So I can't remember who we said. But then he started to talk, and I looked at my husband and I said, oh my God, that guy sounds like Owen Wilson. And he did. He sounded exactly like Owen Wilson. And then I did my rabbit hole deep dive into Internet Movie Database and found out it's the Wilson's third brother, the older brother, Andrew Wilson. And I was kind of proud of myself, pat myself on the back. I was like, yeah, I knew that was a Wilson. Right? So anyway, he's in it. This movie, it's kind of cheesy. It's a time travel. That's all I'll say. So I don't know what is going on in the last 5 years with people finding caves that manipulate time. Is this a new thing? Because I don't know if you guys know about Dark. Dark is a series. I think it's German. I can't remember where it's from. It's a subtitled series that I love. There was recently Palm Springs on Hulu, which is that's a rom-comedy thing. But again, there was like a cave where you went in and it did like time traveling. This movie falls into that genre. So all you need to know is that there is a cave and it's something to do with time, okay? However, what I will say about this movie is there were at least 3 or 4 times where my jaw was on the ground, and so was the husband's, and we were like, oh my God, did that just happen? And I haven't had a movie do that to me in a while where I felt like this movie was not afraid to do off script things. You know how like movies they kind of fall into patterns and you're like, yeah, okay, this is going to happen next. Even though you haven't seen the movie, you kind of know what's going to happen. This movie did not do that. And, again, it wasn't the smartest movie, but oh God, I really enjoyed it. And my husband enjoyed it too, which was surprising because he usually does not like these kind of movies. So that speaks volumes. So as a small sidebar, if you do like rom-com, and if you do like Andy Samberg from, what's his series where they're the cops, I can't remember right now, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He has a comedy on Hulu right now called Palm Springs, which is good. It's kind of like a Groundhoggy Day comedy. It's inspired by that, I'd say. And then, let me see. Oh, by the way, Time Traps was on Netflix, though. I'm almost positive. I'm taking better notes. And while I was looking for the movie that actually led to Time Traps, I noticed that Netflix has Blue Ruin. Now, Blue Ruin is a fantastic movie if you like movies. If you're a movie fan, I don't think there's any way you cannot like Blue Ruin. I'm not sure what year it came out. It's old now. It's at least 5 years old. It was made by the same people who made Green Room, which I love, with Patrick Stewart. So if you like that, you'll like this because it's a similar movie style. There's hardly any dialogue in it, but it's riveting. So I haven't seen it in a long time, so I don't feel comfortable kind of giving you any details. But I remember I watched it. I recommended it to people who loved it. I watched it with my in-laws and my parents at a holiday. Like, we watched it together, and they liked it. So I risk trying to say a movie is amazing because I always feel like when you set somebody up for a movie, you tell them it's awesome, they go in with super high expectations and then they're always disappointed. But I will say it was very good. So that's a sidebar recommendation just because I noticed it's back on Netflix. It's called Blue Ruin. And you might not have heard of it because it wasn't a big movie, but it is very good. All right. Oh my gosh, I have 2 more. Is that I watched a lot of movies this week. I think this is how I've been unwinding. So this is an Amazon Prime recommendation. So, and this was another one that the husband liked. It's called Late Night. It was done by Mindy from the Mindy Project. And what's her name? Emma Thompson? I think it's Emma. I might be wrong. I should have took better notes again. But basically, it's kind of a female-driven comedy about late-night television. So like think Jimmy Fallon and David Letterman, those guys or whatever. So and Emma Thompson, I think is her name. Oh my gosh. See, I suck at podcasting. So anyway, she's like an Ellen I think they mirrored her after Ellen because she's got the short bleachy hair and she's wearing the suits. You know what I mean? And she's a mean boss. There's all these rumors now about Ellen. And Mindy, that's not her name in the movie, but that's her real name. She gets a job as a writer there. And so it's this kind of down to earth. It was a very endearing and funny. I really enjoy her style of comedy. So if you liked the Mindy Project, you would like it because it's like that. So I loved it. I just thought it was fun. And the husband liked it too. We actually stayed up late one night and watched it together. And we both laughed. And there was a couple really good jokes. It was very self-aware. You ever watch a movie that's self-aware? I thought their jokes were pretty spot on. Okay. The last one, and I'm almost coming up exactly on 30 minutes. I am getting good at this. The last one I watched last night, and I stayed up way too late watching it. But it's just been that week where I work late, we're eating dinner late, we're going to bed late, and then I'm like, oh, I just need to put something on the TV. So I put this on the TV. It's on Hulu. It's from this year, 2020. I think they recommend it to me based on my watch list, so it's going to be a horror movie. It was called Behind You. So, again, not good, but good. If that makes sense. So, It's cheesy as hell. It is a standard ghost slash demon haunting story. Um, it falls apart as soon as you ask any kinds of questions. But the premise is there's like, I like mirror horror movies. If you ever seen Oculus, that's a good one. So it's called Behind You because you can only see the demon in the mirror. But then when you look behind you, she's not there. Classic horror. So there was a few good kind of creepy moments, jumps or whatever. But once you start to do like a deep dive and go, wait a minute, what happened? The whole storyline falls apart. It's not very smart. But it was entertaining and the storyline did suck me in. And it was fairly standard, but it's a couple little turns off the standard ghost story. And it's very female driven again. All these movies, tons of female driven storylines. I think all the characters in this movie are women except one. So that I actually didn't even realize that until I just said to you. But I enjoyed seeing where the story went, and I enjoyed the ending, which is usually not a horror movie thing. Good endings, we've talked about this. Okay, that said, I'm going to go because it is getting late and I do want to publish this. And I don't know if you can hear that, but the dog is trying to break into my dark room recording center. He was here and then he didn't want to be here and then he left and now he wants back in because just like a kid, the dog is fickle. So on that note, I'm going to go and I will see you guys. I will talk to you guys next week. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.